I've always had a passion for teaching. As someone, I'm currently in college, and even before I got to college, I was a private tutor. I really liked it, and I found an opportunity to teach some summer classes at Rex, and that's kind of where I am now. I just get to learn more about coding. I'm actually studying myself in kind of a computer science department, and so being able to kind of see students learn about the things that I'm learning as well is really cool. And being able to see like how everyone gets to now learn how to code, even younger generations, is really inspiring. It's really easy to use. It's very nice. I know like for my students and for me, like it's very nice to navigate to what we're learning. So for me as a teacher, I can see all of my students, where they are at, and then also kind of the progress that they're doing. But for students, it's also really convenient. They have all the resources in this platform and they can just access it very easily. For me, it's just easier to kind of get into the actual curriculum. So I don't have to prepare all this like content ahead of time. I know when I was a private tutor, it was a lot of just me taking a couple hours before actually going to the lesson to make sure I know what's happening, where now I could just jump in, help the student right away. And then since the content's already built there, if they need additional stuff, like sometimes if maybe the practice was not enough for them, or maybe they're still struggling with it, I can now go in and just add maybe additional content. I don't have to make everything from scratch. And that gives me more time to kind of get to know my student, get to feel for what they're kind of struggling with or where their strong suits are and things like that. For teaching, so usually my lessons are an hour long. And for prepping, I am usually preparing maybe 20 minutes before the lesson. Sometimes maybe a little bit even before that, but usually it's 20 minutes before the actual hour begins. Yeah, so I had one student that was actually a college student as well, and she was a business major in her freshman year. And she talked a lot about how learning to code, and she was learning Python, learning to code for her was really great because it got to help her with kind of getting ahead of other potential like interviewers. So as a business major, you do learn a little bit of coding, but not as much. And since she had a little bit more experience with it when she went to interviews, it helped her out getting a position. And so that was a great something that I got to hear from her and was really inspirational to see too. So for this, it really depends on what they're struggling with. So I have a lot of students where the curriculum is great for them and it has everything that they need and they're understanding it. With students that are still struggling a little bit more, it's usually I just add a couple of practices in there. So I'm big on just making up problems on my own or maybe finding some resources online. With Python, the great thing about it is there's multitudes of exercises out there that I can kind of incorporate, maybe tweak a little bit so that it matches to what I'm trying to teach the students so that they get better and better. Additionally, I sometimes maybe get additional slideshows or I like to draw pictures. I know a lot of my students are very big visual learners, so I'll get out my pen and draw things out for them. I usually have my iPad on hand, so I'll draw things for them as well so they can visualize how things are, what things are doing in the code and things like that. For that, honestly, for this one, I always ask them, how's their day going? Like, what have they been up to? Sometimes I always think of one of my students, she was wearing a bell dress in one of our Zoom calls. So I commented on it and we went for like a whole tangent, of course, after class on how much she loved Beauty and the Beast and her favorite princess and things like that. And so it was just kind of like nonchalant. We'll just talk about like what her interests are or what the student's going up to and what they want to be, things like that. And so that's kind of how I just normally just have a conversation, ask them about their day and all that. The flexibility for sure is the biggest one. For me, I'm currently a full-time student. It's not easy for me to like leave my apartment since I have all classes all day long. And so being able to just have that flexibility of meeting with students later in the evening or on weekends is really nice and convenient for me. I also don't have to like actually drive to a student's house, so I don't have to worry about bad weather conditions. I don't really like driving too much, so that's also really nice. Yeah, that's the biggest one. So again, like I am in a computer science major. I see it that this is a growing industry. This is a growing topic that everyone should know, even if in the future, if you don't decide to go into a computer science route, a lot of the things you learn, specifically coding, is a lot of logic. It's something that you'll incorporate into math as well. And so just knowing how things work can help you rewire your brain and see things in a new perspective. And that's fantastic to have when you're going out and looking for a job and you're trying to show yourself to an employer about like why should they hire, all that kind of stuff. So even if you aren't super like dedicated to coding in the future, you still have that skill, you have that other understanding that's can be really useful for someone. Yeah, so yeah, currently I don't work for a school. I did have some school, I did some summer camps where I did go in person for school activities, and so I can maybe touch on that a little bit if that's okay. Um, so when I did summer classes, it was a couple of, yeah, I'm trying to think of the summer classes I did. So I did a few summer classes with middle grade and elementary school, and for that I got to really kind of bring like new curriculum to them. I don't think a lot of the kids were exposed to the programming yet, so they didn't understand like what this meant or how it did certain things. My favorite one is seeing like the elementary kids learning how to make their own video games. I thought that was really cool because they had some pretty creative ideas. And then I always remember them stepping up to me and coming to my like little desk, asking me like, "Oh, I want my character to do this, or I want them to do this. How can I make it happen?" And I kind of helped them step by step learn like different coding blocks. And this is more for like smaller coding blocks, not actually coding everything yet. And so I just kind of helped them like piece things together and see how like their games would start evolving. And the biggest one is also having their friends there, and like everyone got to like try each other's games out or do a show and tell and go on the smart board and show off what they're doing. So that was really fun. Personally, I've seen a lot of my students continue on. So it's kind of like in both directions. So I have a lot of students that are coming in with already experience like some other Rex.Academy course. So I've had lots of them that learned I think it was Scratch or HTML with web design, all those kind of courses, and then kind of getting into Python. And I've had many students also continue from Python to learn like Java and AP computer science. So it's sort of like we have all of these different stepping stones for students. And it's not just like you can't choose one and just, be done with it, but you can also continue and learn other new courses. And so it's really exciting to see that my students, either they come in with already some experience or they continue on because they're really interested and passionate about it. And so they'll continue on to learn more and more about it.